we'd like to show you what we've been up to since you were here last year. So here is a blooming year in Buxton. And first, the audience gathered with special guests, the flower pot people, for the presentation of last year's competition prizes, including the Judge's Prize for Endeavour for Mrs. Betty Allen, aged 97. Later that month, the Serpentine Farm had their open day. Come along and see what the team from Serpentine Community Farm have done in the last 12 months. Serpentine Community Farm Open Day, this Saturday, 18th of July, 10 AM. Meanwhile, an appearance at last year's carnival allowed us to promote our projects and attract new members. And in Fairfield, Community Wildlife Spaces held their first volunteer gardening day. August saw the beginning of a project by the Buxton Civic Association to restore street canopies that used to keep Victorian shoppers dry. And, as in every month of the year, the litter picking team were out there tidying up the town. In September, back at the Serpentine Farm, they were making preparations for installing a new polytunnel. And the Bloom 2015 team were more than pleased to tootle off to Rutland Water to pick up their silver gilt medal. Back in Ashwood Park, students from Buxton and Leek College were edging paths and planting beds under the watchful eye of Greg and Kev from High Peak Borough Council.
Personally, I think it needs a hell of a lot of work, and the more people we can get to help us do that, the better. To return it to its original Victorian splendour would be fantastic, but we know that costs time and money. If you come down here, this is a fantastic part, or it will be a fantastic part once we've done some more work in here. Let's get people down into this park as well as Pavilion Gardens.
At Fairfield Community Wildlife Spaces, with a little help from our local MP, we created Strawberry Hill.
Bicycle, bicycle, bicycle. I want to ride my bicycle, bicycle, bicycle. I want to ride my bicycle.
Then in September, after weeks and weeks of painting and preparation, it was time for the Tour of Britain bike race. And here they are, and there they go. Did you catch that? Phew, what a lot going on. Let's have a little rest. Autumn approaches, and the Friends of Buxton Station have constructed and planted 2 wooden troughs. Our MP, Andrew Bingham, has come along to look. Bring your gardening clothes next time, Andrew. In Ashwood Park, the public service students from Buxton and Leek College turned up again to help, this time planting 2,000 daffodil and crocus bulbs. There were many appreciative comments in the spring. The volunteering days continue, litter picking, community wildlife spaces, and clearing the riverbanks in Ashwood Park. Friends of Buxton Station were busy installing signage for accessible parking and toilets, but the day of action in Ashwood Park had to be cancelled due to snow. Well, this is Buxton after all. Time to head indoors and plan for next year's Buxton in Bloom. Now, where do we find a sponsor?
What made you decide that you would like to sponsor Buxton in Bloom?
I think it's important that we encourage everybody to make an effort in the town, and if we can get as much colour and baskets out and flowers as possible, then it makes the town look nicer and encourages people to visit.
By December, at the Serpentine Community Farm, the new polytunnel was complete, and so time for a winter celebration. But no such luck for Santa down at Ashwood Park. In the pouring rain, they're still clearing the shrubs and the flower beds. Despite the efforts of the litter-picking group in December, the town often looks drab this time of year. But does it have to always be like this? Let's ask Andrea.
But this year we thought we want to make Buxton blooming in winter, or a blooming Buxton winter, whatever, and we want to spread it all over the town. So we'd like to join Buxton in Bloom group and create a lantern procession starting down at the bottom of Spring Gardens, going up the slopes all over the town and into the gardens as well.
Wow. And singing and dancing and music and lights.
Definitely.
It sounds fantastic.
In February, Friends of Buxton Station and the town team campaigned for the removal of the old diesel sheds owned by D.B. Schenker. Perhaps we should visit the station to see what happens next. Through the winter the work continued. One of the highlights was the day of action at Ashwood Park, planting bluebells. Here's some we did earlier. Meanwhile, under cover at the Serpentine Community Farm, they were building raised beds in the polytunnel. As spring approaches, the planning continues. A garden trail this year, what do you think?
And it was just a chance remark from somebody on town team, why don't you try having a garden trail, that we sort of grabbed the nettle, I suppose, really. At the moment, we've got possibly 15 gardens, but we're aiming for hopefully 25 gardens.
Being a bit off the beaten track, the Serpentine Community Farm considered that having a compost loo on site would be a good thing. These railings look grubby, but still, with all these squeezy bottles and the public service students from Buxton and Leek College, we'll get the big railing clean started. Children from schools across the town get first-hand experience in volunteering to help keep their town tidy. Meanwhile, at the end of that week, it was time for the town team to relaunch the Buxton Market. Including a stall selling plants from the Serpentine Community Farm. Meanwhile, back at the community farm, they were holding a spring gardening day to mark the spring equinox. All those people. Good job they've got a compost loo. The litter picking group get as high as kites in the springtime. You just can't keep them down. Is this what they call gardening with altitude? It's May, and we're back in Ashwood Park. Not raining this time, but there's nothing this team love better than getting wet. What are they looking for? Oh, that's where the hubcap got to. Meanwhile, these benches are off for redecoration, because we are painting the town red. Following a donation from Waitrose, the volunteer army springs into action at Y Street car park. Let's talk to some of these volunteers.
Hi girls, what are you doing?
Hi Tina, and we're putting some plants in the Turner's Memorial to look like water.
What sort of stuff do you do?
We've been helping on Ashwood Park to do that, haven't we?
Yeah, tidying that up all around the river and
in the river, haven't we?
Yeah.
And they helped recycling the bikes from last year, painting them red this time for the Women's Tour of Britain. Oh, here they are. Oh, there they go. Did you catch that? And June saw the first Buxton garden trail.
Alan and Kathy, you opened your lovely garden to the garden trail this year. What were your first impressions of it?
Well, I was quite well impressed by the event. You don't know what to expect because it was a new thing for us, but first of all we had quite a good number of visitors come by, a nice steady flow on the Saturday and the Sunday.
And we were amazed where they all came from. Mm-hmm. Chester, Sheffield, Rotherham.
Yeah, so there was a good geographical spread.
It's June and time for some midsummer madness down at Ashwood Park. I know we're a long way from the sea, but do these guys always have to go paddling? And another thing, where have all these flower pot people come from?
Started last year where we just had this idea very, very near Buxton in bloom time. It would be nice to make flower pot people. So this year we thought, can we up it a bit? Can we encourage a few more people? So Ali came along to help. She decided we should do some workshops. People could come along, they could find out how to make a flower pot person, or they could sit with us and make one.
And now it's July. Time for us to put up our well dressings. Time for you to make your decision. And time for us to thank the many people who have been involved in a blooming year in Buxton.